The secret theater was a retired gem put away in the heart of the country. It was a place of pure magic, a sanctuary where nature was allowed to grow and flourish in peace. The theater was nestled between a thick timber and a wide, rolling meadow, and was girdled by towering trees that gave it a sense of insulation. To reach the theater, one had to follow a winding path that led through the forest land, past prattling becks, and fields of wildflowers. The path was narrow and winding, and it sounded to go on ever, but those who persisted were awarded the sight of the theater's wrought iron gates. The gates were old and rusted, and they creaked loudly as they opened to reveal the secret theater beyond. Outside, the theater was a world of wonder, full of lush verdure and ambrosial flowers that bloomed in a hoot of color. There were twisting vines and lush backwoods, towering trees, and delicate blooms, all squeezing for space in the theater's rich soil. The theater was vast and sprawling, and there were winding paths that led in every direction, each one offering a discovery. There were hidden recesses and cracks where one could sit and rest, girdled by the gentle howl of leaves and the distant hum of notions. The theater was a place of enchantment, a world piecemeal from the hustle and bustle of ultramodern life. It was a memorial that the beauty of nature was always close at hand, staying to be discovered by those who knew where to look. And for those lucky enough to stumble upon the secret theater, it was a treasure to be cherished ever. Lily was a curious and audacious girl who loved nothing further than exploring the world around her. She lived on the edge of the timber and spent the utmost of her days wandering the forest land, climbing trees, and chasing after squirrels. One sunny morning, Lily set out on a new adventure, determined to explore a part of the forest land she had no way seen ahead. She hiked through thick green and across aqueducts, pushing her way deeper into the timber. As she walked, she noticed that the trees were getting thicker, and the air was growing cooler and mute. As she pushed through the last of the trees, Lily set up herself facing a wrought iron gate. The gate was old and rusted and hadn't been opened in a long time. But to Lily, it was an infectious challenge, and she decided to climb over it and see what lay beyond. As she stepped into the theater, Lily was incontinently struck by the beauty of the place. The sun was shining down, shooting the ground with light and casting long murk across the theater's numerous paths. There were flowers of every color and type, from delicate daisies to bright, bold sunflowers. The air was alive with the hum of notions and the howl of leaves, and Lily felt as if she had stumbled into a world of pure magic. She explored the theater for hours, marveling at its numerous prodigies. She discovered retired recesses and cracks where she could sit and rest, and she spent time watching the catcalls and creatures that called the theater home. The theater was full of life and vitality, and Lily felt as if she had discovered a treasure that was meant just for her. As the sun began to set, Lily realized that she'd have to leave the theater and head back home. But she promised herself that she'd return and that she'd continue to explore the secrets of this magical place. And with a smile on her face, she scrabbled back over the gate and set off back through the forest land, eager to return to the theater as soon as she could. Lily was fully bedazzled by the beauty of the secret theater. As she walked along the winding paths, she could not help but feel as though she had stepped into another world entirely. Far and wide she looked. There were bursts of color and texture, and the air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers. She wandered through the theater, taking in the sights and sounds around her. She saw a rainbow of different flowers, ranging from delicate white lilies to bold, fiery orange marigolds. Some of the flowers were small and dainty, while others were big and grabby, like the sunflowers that towered grandly above her head. Lily was particularly drawn to the spices of the flowers. She closed her eyes and gobbled deeply, filling her lungs with the sweet scents that girdled her. There was the heady, racy aroma of the lavender, the fresh, clean scent of the daisies, and the rich, earthy smell of the roses. As she walked, Lily reached out to touch the flowers, feeling the wimpiness of their petals and the strength of their stems. She was fascinated by the way the different flowers grew and interacted with one another, how the altitudinous sunflowers towered above the lower flowers and the daisies spread out in clusters across the ground. Lily was so taken with the beauty of the theater that she lost track of time. She wandered deeper and deeper into the theater, exploring every niche and fissure and marveling at the sights and scents around her. And as she walked, she felt as though she was in a world of pure magic, a place where anything was possible and the beauty of nature was always close at hand. As Lily continued to explore the secret theater, she discovered that it was a place of perfect harmony. The theater was full of colorful shops and creatures, each living in perfect balance with the others. Every flower, tree, and blade of lawn sounded to be in just the right place, and the creatures that called the theater home moved about their business with ease and grace. Lily noticed the notions and butterflies that danced from flower to flower, gathering pollen and quencher. They moved with similar perfection and purpose, as if they were in tune with the veritable measures of the theater itself. Lily was amazed by the way the insects sounded to know exactly where to go, as if they had an ingrained sense of the theater's inner workings. She also saw catcalls darting about the trees, singing sweetly as they searched for insects and other food. They hopped from branch to branch, putatively unconscious to the world around them as they sang their songs. And as she walked, Lily realized that the catcalls and insects were just one part of a larger, more intricate web of life that made up the theater. The shops in the theater sounded to be in perfect harmony with each other as well. The flowers bloomed in accord, as if they were in a cotillion, with one type of flower fading as another took its place. The trees handed shade and sanctum for the lower shops, while the vines and rovers wound their way over and around the caddies, creating a shade of leaves and branches. As she walked, Lily felt as though she was a part of this magic, as if she too had a place in this world of perfect harmony. She marveled at the way the theater sounded to be alive with its energy, and she felt a sense of peace and calm marshland over her. In the secret theater, nature wasn't just a collection of separate rudiments, but a total that was lesser than the sum of its corridor. And Lily knew that this was a veritably special place, a place that she'd return to again and again, to lounge in the magic and wonder of nature's perfect harmony. As Lily continued to explore the secret theater, she set up spending further and further time there. She'd come every day, wandering through the winding paths and taking in the sights and sounds of the theater. And as she did, she began to appreciate the beauty and simplicity of nature in a whole new way. Lily had always loved the outside, but she had no way seen anything relatively like the secret theater. Then, she realized, was a place where the world was stripped down to its utmost introductory rudiments. There were no defenses or biases, no schedules or deadlines. There was only the theater and the beauty and wonder of nature around her. She began to notice effects that she had no way paid attention to ahead, the way the leaves rustled in the wind, the way the light played on the water in the pond, the way the different colors and textures of the flowers created a shade of beauty. As she spent further time in the theater, Lily set up that she began to appreciate the simple effects of life more completely. She savored the taste of fresh fruits and vegetables, the feeling of the sun on her face, and the sound of birdsong in the morning. And she began to see the world around her in a new light, as a place of endless possibility, full of beauty and magic. Lily also began to appreciate the value of quiet reflection. In the secret theater, she could sit and suppose, letting her mind wander and her imagination take flight. She set up that this time alone with her studies was just as important as the time she spent exploring the theater, and it helped her to understand herself and the world around her. As she sat in the theater, watching the world go by, Lily realized that nature had a way of bringing people back to what was truly important in life. In a world that was frequently chaotic and inviting, the simplicity and beauty of nature were an adder for the soul, a memorial that occasionally the most important effects in life were the bones that were the simplest. As Lily spent further time in the secret theater, she came to realize that it wasn't just a place of beauty and wonder, but also a place of community. She began to notice the creatures that called the theater home, the catcalls, rabbits, and butterflies, and she was drawn to them. At first, the creatures were conservative around Lily. They would flick down as soon as she got too close, or fly over into the trees if she made too important noise. But as time went on, Lily began to develop a kind of fellowship with the creatures. She'd sit still and watch as the rabbits hopped around the theater, nibbling on lawn and leaves, and she'd hold out her hand as the butterflies landed on her fritters. She indeed began to fate the individual catcalls that called the theater home, and she'd effervesce to them and watch as they flew down to perch on her shoulder. As she spent further time with the creatures, Lily began to realize that they had unique personalities and habits. The rabbits were shy and skittish, but also curious and sportful. The butterflies were delicate and graceful, but also fierce and determined. And the catcalls were bold and confident, but also pious and defensive. Lily set up that spending time with the creatures in the theater brought her a sense of joy and connection that she had no way endured before. She felt as though she was part of a commodity larger than herself, the commodity that connected her to all of the other living effects in the theater. In a way, the creatures became her companions, her mates in exploring the secrets and prodigies of the theater. They tutored her about the natural measures of the world, the significance of tolerance and continuity, and the joy that can be set up in the simple effects of life. And as Lily continued to befriend the creatures in the theater, she came to realize that the magic of the secret theater wasn't just in its beauty and wonder, but also in the connections that she formed with the brutes that called it home. One day, as Lily was wandering through the secret theater, she heard a faint chittering sound. At first, she allowed it was just one of the numerous catcalls that lived in the theater, but as she heeded more nearly, she realized that the sound was coming from a small raspberry that was lying on the ground, its sect bent at an odd angle. Lily rushed over to the raspberry, and she could see that it was injured. It looked up at her with alarmed eyes, and Lily could see that it was in pain. Without thinking, she dipped the raspberry in her hands and began to carry it back to her special spot in the theater. As she settled the raspberry into a comfortable spot, Lily realized that she had no idea how to watch for a wounded raspberry. She had always loved creatures, but she had no way to watch for one that was injured. But she was determined to do everything she could to help the little raspberry. Over the coming many days, Lily spent every spare moment in the theater, minding for the raspberry. She gutted its injuries, gave it fresh water and seeds, and talked to it in soft, soothing tones. At first, the raspberry was alarmed and skittish, but as time went on, it began to trust Lily more and more. It would pip vocally as she approached, and it would snuggle up against her hand when she held it. As she watched for the raspberry, Lily began to realize that this was what the secret theater was each about, a place of mending and restoration, not just for the shops and creatures that lived there, but also for people like her. She realized that the theater was a sanctuary, a place where people could come to escape the noise and chaos of the world and find peace and tranquility. As the days passed, Lily watched as the raspberry sluggishly began to heal. Its bodies grew stronger, and it began to delirium them tentatively. And also, one day, it took off into the sky, soaring high above the theater before coming back down to perch on a branch next to Lily. Lily felt a deep sense of pride and joy as she watched the raspberry fly free, and she realized that this was what the secret theater was each about, a place of renewal and growth, a place where nature could work its magic and bring mending to all who entered its gates. As Lily spent further time in the secret theater, she began to learn about the colorful shops and their medicinal parcels. She discovered that numerous of the shops in the theater wasn't just beautiful to look at, but also had mending parcels that could be used to treat a wide variety of affections. Lily was fascinated by the idea that nature could give so important mending and comfort, and she began to study the different shops and their uses. She read books on herbal drugs and talked to the creatures in the theater, who sounded to have a natural understanding of the mending parcels of the shops. When she set up the injured raspberry in the theater, Lily knew that she had to use her newfound knowledge to help it heal. She gathered a variety of shops and sauces from the theater, chamomile for its soothing parcels, comfort for its capability to speed up mending, and lavender for its comforting effect. She mixed the sauces to make a cataplasm and precisely applied it to the raspberry's injuries. At first, the raspberry was reluctant, but as Lily talked to it vocally and gently stroked its feathers, it began to relax. Over the coming many days, Lily continued to use the herbal cataplasm on the raspberry's injuries, and she could see that it was making a difference. The raspberry's feathers began to grow back, and its injuries began to heal. Lily was amazed by the power of nature and the mending parcels of the shops in the theater. She realized that this was what the secret theater was each about, a place of beauty and wonder, but also a place of mending and restoration. As she watched the raspberry fly down, Lily knew that she had been a part of a commodity special. She had used her knowledge and her compassion to help heal a wounded critter, and in doing so, she had discovered a new sense of purpose and meaning in her life. From that day on, Lily continued to study the shops and creatures in the theater, learning all she could about the mending parcels of nature. And as she did, she discovered a deep sense of connection to the natural world, a sense of belonging and purpose that she had no way endured before. As the days passed, the secret theater began to bloom with new life and colors. The flowers bloomed in a hoot of colors, the lawn grew lush and green, and the creatures that lived in the theater thrived in the renewed vitality of their surroundings. As Lily watched the theater flourish, she began to realize the significance of taking care of the terrain and all its occupants. She knew that nature was delicate and demanded to be defended and nurtured if it was to continue to thrive. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to help save the beauty of the theater and the girding terrain. Lily began to study further the goods of pollution, climate change, and other environmental issues. She read books, watched pictures, and talked to people who were working to cover the terrain. She learned about recycling, reducing plastic waste, and conserving energy. As she enforced these changes in her own life, she began to see the impact they were having on the theater and the creatures that lived there. She noticed that there were further butterflies, catcalls, and rabbits in the theater than ever ahead, and the shops sounded to be growing stronger and healthier. Lily realized that by taking care of the terrain, she was also taking care of herself and the people and creatures around her. She felt a sense of connection and community with the world around her, and she knew that she had set up her true purpose in life. As she tended to the theater, she also tended to her spirit. She set up peace and joy in the simple act of being in nature, and she knew that she'd always be a part of it. With each passing day, Lily continued to learn and grow, and the secret theater continued to flourish. As time went by, she remained married to taking care of the terrain and all its occupants, and in doing so, she helped to produce a world that was more beautiful, more harmonious, and more connected than ever ahead. One day, Lily decided to invite her family and musketeers to the secret theater. She wanted to partake with them in the beauty and wonder of the theater and the important assignments she had learned about taking care of the terrain. As they walked through the theater, Lily's musketeers and family were amazed by the vibrant colors, the ambrosial scents, and the array of creatures that lived there. They saw the rabbits hopping around, the butterflies fluttering from flower to flower, and the catcalls singing in the trees. They were all charmed by the magic of the theater. Lily spoke passionately about the significance of taking care of the terrain and the part that each of them could play in guarding it. She participated in her guests' learning about nature and the assignments she had learned about the fragility and beauty of the world around us. Her family and musketeers were inspired by her words, and they pledged to cover the terrain and do their part in conserving the beauty of the world around them. They pledged to reduce their plastic waste, reclaim, conserve energy, and be aware of their impact on the terrain. As they left the secret theater, Lily's family and musketeers felt a renewed sense of connection to nature and a deeper understanding of the significance of guarding the terrain. They knew that by working together, they could make a difference and help to produce a world that was more beautiful, more harmonious, and more connected than ever ahead. And so the story of the secret theater came to an end, with a pledge to cherish and cover the natural world, to live in harmony with it, and to always flash back the magic of the theater that tutored them the power of nature's beauty and the significance of guarding it for unborn generations.